Hey, everybody. Welcome to ProBROknow. Three brothers, three opinions, one topic. Hello, brothers.
You sound like a radio announcer today.
Welcome to the stage.
That's right.
Spencer.
Please, the lovely Spencer.
Three brothers on one stage.
Put your hands together. For
And not only that,
50%
discount with Ginsu Steak Knives.
And don't forget about our hot buffet, $275 plus tax.
Anyway.
Now, put your hands together.
for Chad. Anyway, I'm
Anyways,
good. I'm
yes,
good.
That was quite the intro.
How you doing?
I'm well.
Yeah,
Happy
me too.
Sunday.
Yeah. It's
Happy
Sunday already?
Sunday.
We're wearing the same shirt.
Well,
I
not quite.
I didn't get
Well,
the email.
I mean, yours cost more than mine, but
I don't even think you paid for that shirt.
Actually, we know how
it was
much
like-
Chad paid
it
for
was
it.
like $6, right?
Well,
And it looks
for
like
a
it.
dozen.
Today's topic is how easy is it to steal clothes?
That's right. Well, it's super easy nowadays.
It's super easy nowadays.
Yeah,
And so
you
Chad
just
tried
walk out.
it.
Yeah, that's right.
Just for fun.
Of all the ones you could have stole, you stole that one.
You could have had anything you
I
wanted.
think they
and you-
said, no, let them take it.
No,
And
it's
you stole
we're
that.
trying to give those
They're
away.
not even selling.
They're on clearance, and I'm still stealing them, right?
Can't even give them away, so
Yeah.
just
No.
take it.
Anyways,
I like the shirt, though. It's nice.
today, yes, thank you. Yours as well.
Thanks, man.
Yes, I love the V-neck. It's
Wait,
great.
no one likes my shirt?
Classic black V-neck.
No, yours is good, too. You got like
Yeah.
that kind of
It's
of work, getting down to business look, like the
Yeah.
after five vibe.
yeah,
The After 5 vibe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. It shows off
Business
your
casual.
pecs.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure that's what you were trying to do.
I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
other than your pecs, I did want to talk about my topic today, which is, I don't know if it'd be interviews gone bad, but I want to talk about some, we've all been in a management role for a long time. We've all hired and fired many. I mean, I don't know how many I've had over the years, maybe 100 or something, but we've all had all these interesting interviews and people that come in to sit and just leave us scratching our heads and going, what the, I don't know. Do you have any of those? Can you think of something?
I got quite a few.
No names though. So I just
won't
thought
use
maybe
names.
we should talk about that because some of these, at least for me, were quite funny experiences.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to you, Spence, because you're like, oh, I got lots of stories. Yeah.
I have actually a ton of funny and weird and interesting interviews for sure. I think one of my favorite ones, and only I say it's my favorite because it was just so off the wall that it kind of, kept a special spot in my heart, because it was a very weird. But this guy came in and he was, I don't know, it felt like there was a little bit of ADHD there, but he was saying all the right words and, using lingo. And he was a little quirky, but I kind of thought that might actually do well in sales.
Okay.
And so,
Because he would stand out a little bit.
yeah, he was a little bit different, but not like at the time. I didn't think it was like too off the wall different, but just enough different that someone might just be like, he'd be memorable.
Sure.
Right.
But it was kind of funny too. He brought a notebook, and he asked some like good questions, but as he was asking questions and I was answering them, he was like, taking the whole interview, he was taking all these notes. I'm like, holy cow, this guy is like
Detailed.
yeah, he's like very on the ball, right? And so I was a little bit impressed, but I think about halfway through the interview, I was just like, what is this guy writing? Like, I don't think what I'm saying is that, interesting that you need to write it down.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, because it wasn't like I wasn't giving any nuggets of how we do any kind of special things or trade secrets in the business. It was just more like us shooting the shit, So, but then at one point I got called out of the interview. But yeah, I got called out, and I was told that he had a phone call,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, okay. And that it was his mother calling because she was concerned. He'd been in there quite a while and would know if he was okay.
Wow.
So where was she?
I don't know if she drove him or if she was just at home.
That's what it was. But she was out in the parking lot waiting for the interview.
Alarm bells.
I don't know. Yeah, it
Alarm
was,
bells.
So when she
Absolutely.
said that, I was like, what? And like, yeah, she's on hold. She called a couple times. It doesn't want to. She needs to speak to her son. And I was just like, whoa, that's kind of strange. It wasn't like we were in there for hours. It was like maybe half an hour meeting so far. So I told him, I went back in there and said, hey, sorry for the, but you actually have a phone. You get a phone call on the white courtesy line. Can you go grab it?
Courtesy of the bat phone.
Yeah, like your mom's on line 2.
She's like, blink twice if you're in trouble.
Yeah, like it was very strange. So obviously, when he got up to go, I kind of looked at the notepad, and it was just scribbles,
Yeah.
no words.
That was, his coping mechanism.
That was how I think he was. But he was looking at me
Yeah.
like, okay, and sorry, what were you saying about okay? And he's like writing it down. So he was like, I thought he had this detailed list of everything that points that he wanted to remember, and it was just
Keeps him calm.
it was like a serial killer scribble. There was no words whatsoever on the pages. It was only and so it was. But we hired him. So.
Oh, wow.
Did you really?
I did actually.
You did hire him.
I did.
He's still with you?
No,
Oh.
no.
Because he killed someone?
Probably, but that's not why
Probably
we
because
let him
his
go.
mom kept coming in
Spence
at lunch
looks
hour
at,
to
Spence
check,
looks
to
at
check
the
him
letter.
out.
He's got cutout letters spelling different things on there from
exactly.
magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no,
wild.
it was very weird.
That's
It was
a weird
very
story.
strange. Yeah.
The fact that the mother dropped him off and waited for him is a alarm bell.
I don't know if but I don't think she dropped him off. That's what's weird.
She called him from home.
I think he told her he was going to this interview.
That's
and
why
then
she called, because she was worried. He was supposed to be in
wasn't
the
home
car
yet.
riding with her, and he was on the bus, and she just didn't get it.
I don't know. It was very. It was
How
very
old was
strange.
this guy? 30s?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
late 30s, I think, mid 30s. I don't know.
See, my story is not as exciting as that one, but
No, my story's not done yet, though.
oh, I thought you were done. My apologies, Spence. No,
Wow.
you
You
can.
know, you just take up the whole podcast. Go ahead.
he does.
Well, she said, I'm going to start with you because you've got a good story.
Yeah, I thought you
Well,
were.
he
done.
didn't say and finish with you. He just said
No,
start with you.
If you're not done, you just carry on. You should.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So,
So anyway, Chad, I was. Oh, I'm sorry, Spence.
Yeah.
so
No, you
when
go
we,
ahead.
when
Anyways, it was a funny story. Yeah.
Okay, Spence, just finish.
So, the funny part of this story is that when we finally let this guy go, it was because I didn't know how I can describe this properly on the podcast, but as soon as we hired him, we had all these issues with the washrooms, like just
Messy.
yeah, like someone didn't really know what you're supposed to do in there.
Right.
Okay.
You
And
weren't
they
really
kinda-
sure where to aim.
The etiquette, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And good on picking up on that aim thing, Wade. But but we never could really, it was just weird that never had this issue until after hiring that person. And so it was like, I wonder if there's a correlation here.
Yeah.
And so,
not that you're blaming him or anything.
no, because we didn't know.
Of
But
course.
then the crux was someone watched him walk out and was the next one in. So then they knew he didn't just go in there and was oblivious to what was in there. He obviously was the culprit, but to the point where, like,
So what was he doing?
on top of the tank, on the back of the tank, on the floor, everywhere but in the bowl
Wow.
was pee.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think to the one point that, one of the other managers there actually had to have a conversation and ask the question, like, do you hold?
That's an awkward conversation to have.
Do you actually hold while you're going in there?
I think
or are
I kn-
you just hands free?
No, I think I know what happened.
Really?
He was taking notes as he was peeing.
Yeah. Well, he's on the phone talking to mom.
He
I
was
guess.
scribbling on his pad.
Yeah. But no, it was like so. I've never seen something like that in my life. It was very strange.
It's very strange.
is
How
weird.
do you have those conversations?
It was such a weird conversation having to ask someone how do you like do you hold on when you go, because like it doesn't look like you did.
So it just, along, and I don't want to get into a big story about it, but this wasn't really an interview story, but you were just talking about having to say something to an employee that's a little bit awkward. And in my case, I guess I won't say where I work because then somebody might know. There was a place that I worked, and there was a person that I was, in the managerial role, and there was a person that worked there that didn't particularly take very good care of herself, and she was always wearing sandals, and she had these big, long, dirty toenails, to be honest with you.
Eagle talons.
Well, they pretty much were. Exactly. They were getting to jump out of her shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But she had these giant, it's it's just gross to have the conversation. But ultimately, she just had these huge nails that were not well kept. Or she didn't look clean. And my boss came to me and said, I can't have her walking around like that. I need you to have a conversation with her about cutting her nails and just, making herself look more presentable. And that was very tough to do. Yeah. So I don't know, really tough. Like, if you ever had to say something to an employee that's, about hygiene or anything else, it's extremely difficult conversation to have.
It is very tough. Yeah. Because it's very personal to them.
So I was just thinking about that because you said, this guy was peeing all over the bathroom, and that's just one time that stands out to me where I had to sort of talk to somebody about their hygiene, which was very difficult.
Yeah, I think whenever you're having a conversation with someone that's not work related, but it's more either just like common graces or social graces or hygiene or anything like that, that's a real slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it's where your role as a supervisor becomes almost a therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that
psychologist trying to understand like what's going on, that's causing some of these behaviors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say earlier, Spence, with the whole mom dropping them off. It wasn't the same situation, but I was in one of my jobs. I was hiring employees, but also looking for volunteers and hiring volunteers. And the interview went really well with this person. She was probably mid-20s to volunteer. And in the end, I didn't end up using her as a volunteer. She just didn't have the experience she needed. I didn't feel like she was going to be okay in that environment. It was a higher risk environment. So I said no to bring her on as a volunteer. And instead of her calling me to ask me why, her mother called me to ask me why her daughter, who was mid-20s, did not get the volunteer position.
I will say that I have been called before by a prospective applicant's mom to say he was busy today, but he just wondered if I could just call and see if you've made a decision.
Yeah, it's so inappropriate.
It's like
it's because there's my
we're
answer
talking
right
about
there.
a 30-year-old guy here.
Yeah, there's my answer. Yeah, the answer is no then. And so I said to the mother, I'd be happy to have that conversation with your daughter if she'd like to call me. But like, I'm not having it with you. You're the mother.
You have nothing to do with it.
She's an adult. But now I know I didn't say yes to the volunteer job. Like, it's inappropriate.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of inappropriate, you guys have some good ones.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. There's been a couple specifically that come to mind. There's two that stand out for me. So the first one was, and I really didn't even have the interview, so it almost doesn't count, but it was everything leading up to that. So I'm hiring for a person, a renovator. This guy calls and he says, I want to come down for the interview. And so, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be nice. So, where's he driving from? Give him some directions. Like, so what part of the city are you coming from? Just so I can kind of give you directions. Like, where do you live? He's like, right now I'm living in my car.
I'm in between homes.
Yeah. Well, basically that's what he said. I'm living in my car. And I said, oh, okay. So he said,
open mouth, insert foot.
well,
Yeah.
well, I mean,
I know you're not expecting that answer, but it does really sort of put you now like how do you respond to that?
Yeah. So, of course I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, well, a homeless person that's coming to apply for the job and just kind of going with the flow. And he's asking me, where is it? Where is it? How will I know if it's you? And I said, well, you just open the door. It'll be me. This is what I look like, blah, blah, blah. I'll be the only person there. So, and he says, well, you'll know it's me because when I get there, because I look like a mafia hitman. No, seriously.
And this is when you thought, do I owe anyone money?
Well, no, that's exactly what he said. He said, I look like a mafia hitman. I said, really? He's like, yeah, that's what my friends tell me. That I'm like, okay, well, I guess.
Can't wait to meet you.
Yeah, I mean.
So you just said you're hired on the spot then, right?
No, but what I did actually was.
Get him to go knock on a couple of customers and see if they
thought he looked like a hitman.
Like, I have a bunch of outstanding invoices here.
I probably should have, yeah. I should have done that.
I have some late payments.
Yeah, exactly. He could have just been my collections man or something. Anyways, I said, okay. And he said, can we move the time to 4:30 from 4? And I said, yeah, that's fine. But I'm thinking, okay, well, you're unemployed. You're living in your car. I mean, what's
He had to go do a hit before he came over there. Yeah.
Maybe. Anyways, so then I hang up from the call and I think, holy cow, like I'm about to interview a homeless guy that looks like a mafia hitman. This just doesn't seem right to me. And so I ended up calling my supervisor at the time and I said, do me a favor. I've got this interview. It's probably fine. But to be honest with you, I think I want to have another person sitting there because I don't know what to expect.
I'm not feeling safe.
Well, kind of, right?
Yeah.
It just seemed a little too weird for me. So anyways, I did ask him to come and now I'm paying this other interview guy to sit there for the interview. We waited 4:30, 4:45, 5 o'clock, 5:15, no show. So not only was I feeling like an idiot that I was agreeing to take the interview, because you're just having a conversation with somebody and like, I'm never going to hire this person. There's no way. This just sounds sketchy. And I waited anyways for the interview, like an extra half an hour or more.
Yeah, because you're trying not to be rude and judgmental, right?
You don't want to get off.
You don't want to get off.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, I don't consider myself a mean person. I would try to give him the benefit of the doubt, and which is why I was going to do it. But I was so irritated that I waited that time when I knew that it was probably, never going to go anywhere.
But you couldn't say anything.
And I didn't say anything. Well, what was I going to say?
Well, I agree because he would have said like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so you talking to me?
You want to say that to my face, Chad?
That's
Like,
right.
No.
So, anyways, it was just very odd. And
So you paid him for the extra hour that you waited.
yeah,
right.
no, I don't believe I did.
So he never showed, never heard from him again.
No.
That was it.
No,
Wow.
that was it. So I felt really stupid.
That's so
about that.
weird, eh? It's
Yeah.
like how someone is coming for an interview. It's almost like a Kijiji, someone who's coming by to pick up the tables and then
Yeah,
just
and
never
then they
shows.
never come. Yeah.
Oh, I've had tons of no-shows in my time for interviews. Drives
Really?
me.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Drives me
Yeah.
crazy.
The ones that actually,
No shows for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
calls, no nothing. Just
Yeah.
don't show up. Yep.
yeah, the ones that get me
I've
are
never
the
had that.
ones that come for the interview and like, yeah, no, absolutely, I want the job, and then they call you the next day and say, yeah, I changed my mind, I got another job. Like after you've offered them the job, I've had that a bunch of times.
Oh yeah, I've had I had a woman who I interviewed who interviewed went really well. She was excited. We had several follow-up conversations. I said, I'm doing your contract. I'll send it out to you, and then crickets, and then reach out. Did you get my email? I sent it to you on this date. Crickets. Never once responded again. And this was a person that was using our services, so she knew that we knew her. She just never.
Aren't you thinking like, if you don't want the job, that's okay, but why did you just say so?
It was just bizarre. Like,
weird.
just tell me you're not interested. But just to ghost you completely. It's just, and I find that's very common today with interviews. It's just the whole ghosting thing is like, yeah, well, I just changed my mind.
exactly.
I don't need to call you.
Yeah, there's no courtesy anymore to call somebody and say I'm not coming for the interview.
Yeah. My most
Like I still send, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I still send out emails when someone's applying online. Hey,
Like, thanks for
looking
your
to see
application?
got your application. Thanks for your interest in ISG. At the moment, we're not. But everyone's like, what are you doing? Why are you sending? Because I don't know. I think it's the right thing to
that's
do.
very nice of you to do, but that's the exception, I think.
Yeah, I definitely I will respond if I've interviewed them and say, thank you, we've chosen somebody else, but I don't respond to just all the random, because you get hundreds of tire kickers, right? So I don't do that.
So my probably weirdest experience for an interview was this. I was interviewing with another coworker, and this guy came in, and right away I'm like, something was off with him, and he sat down, and now I'm smelling marijuana. I'm like, wow, this guy's like he just smoked, I think, before the interview, and this is before it was even legal to smoke it.
Right.
So he sits down, and as he's answering questions, he's kind of like, yeah, so like that's a great question. Like I totally am good at developing relationships. Like, like that's like my definite skill. And I remember just looking at my colleague like, what is happening right now? Like, is this just me thinking this? Like, because she's just looking normal, and
there was two of you interviewing them?
two of us interviewing. And so when we finished the interview, he walked out, and I looked at my coworker and I said, like, was it just me or was he high? And she said, oh, higher than a kite. I said, oh, okay. Wasn't just me then. He came for an interview to work in social services with vulnerable clients, and he was high. Yeah, pretty interesting.
So you hired him?
We did hire him. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, I thought he'd be quirky enough that he might connect with the people.
You knew he'd know how to make brownies for the kids.
He was a really good baker. Yeah, no, it was fascinating to me that that's how he came in for the interview. Yeah.
I've probably had somebody come in high for an interview, but I do have one that stands out to me with somebody who came drunk. And I was trying to get them to come downtown to meet me at the shop, and they didn't want to do that. And they said, I don't have a car right now. Could you meet me, closer to my house? And it would turn out that it's not far from my house. So I go meet him at Westmount Mall parking lot. And I'm in my truck, literally.
I know this one too.
Yeah, I've told you this before. Yeah. So I'm in my truck and I'm sitting there and I'm just sitting on the tailgate waiting for this guy. And he comes walking across the parking lot. And as soon as he starts talking to me, it's pretty clear he's drunk. I'm like, wow, the guy comes drunk. Like, I come and meet him where he wants to be, and he's drunk at the interview. So we start talking about his experience and all of that kind of stuff. Suddenly he pulls out, he's got a gym bag with him, and he pulls out a photo album. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so he's probably brought some like photos of some of his work and stuff, so I can, check out his skills, his tile jobs, whatever. And he opens the first page, and it's a picture of like his mom and dad and, his cousin or whatever. And I'm not really sure what to make of this at the time, but he just starts flipping all the pages, and it's literally his family photo albums.
Is he saying anything as he's flipping through it, or just
No,
this is my Uncle Bob.
That's exactly.
And this is my mom.
Really?
Yes,
sister.
that's exactly. He's like, so that's my mom, that's my dad, well, that's my stepdad, and this is my brother, but he doesn't live here now. He lives wherever, and this is my sister. And
You're like, what is the relevance to tiling?
well, yeah, because I was like, is he actually doing show and tell with me right now on his personal family photo albums? So again, I'm not trying not to be a jerk or anything, so I'm just going, oh, okay, yeah.
he's just
nice.
connecting with you on an
Exactly,
emotional
just getting
level.
getting to know him on a personal level.
Yeah, you know the real him.
That's right. So, anyways, he proceeds to get to the end. And I thought, oh, thank God, that's over. And then he reaches into the gym bag to put the photo album back and pulls out a second album. And
This is our trip to.
yeah, exactly. Well, pretty much, right?
This is when my son was born.
Right. That's right. So all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm getting punked. Somebody is actually playing a joke on me. There's no way this guy brought 2 family photo albums. And sure enough, he just starts opening the first page, and it's more of the same. And now, again, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I try to be a decent human being. But I said, let me see it. And so I just took the photo album from him, and I went, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool. All right. Super. So let's talk a little bit more about the job. Because I was like, I'm not going to look at another family photo album. What is going on here?
So how did it end?
How did it end?
Yeah.
Well,
You hired him.
Yeah, no, I didn't. But I've kept in touch with his family.
Yeah,
so
he's
that's
going to
really-
the family reunion next weekend.
That's really great. Yeah,
Chad's in the third photo album.
that's right. Now there's a picture of me in there.
That's right.
No, obviously I couldn't hire him. A, because he was drunk. B, I thought he was a little out there doing that. But I just have never experienced something like that. It just made no sense. Lots of guys will bring in photos of work they've done, which I would expect. But that was so off the wall.
That's crazy.
I can't really wrap my head around why you would do that.
So here's a question for you. How much leeway do you give someone who shows up late for an interview?
For me, it's very little, unless, it's a really good, sorry, if they're like, oh, the traffic was bad, sorry, traffic's bad for me. I still got to be at work every day. But it depends. No, what I mean, it depends on what it is, right? The excuse and whether or not you believe it, whether it's credible.
It might be different for you because you're not always interviewing a ton of people at the same time, I guess.
Right.
But we would have a list of maybe 12 interviews in a day that we had to get through. And if they were at 9:10 and it was now 9:15, we would often just say to the receptionist at the front, yeah, they're not coming in. They're late. Tell them, sorry.
I have definitely, I've definitely turned somebody away that I waited, a long time for them, and they were late, and I said, no, sorry. And he's like, what do you mean? It's like, I'm 20 minutes late, and like, sorry, we got to go.
Yeah. Well, I think it really does speak to, first impressions. And if you can't be there and you're not going to call and say like something happened and that's why you're going to be late, and you just assume that people are waiting around for you, then I think they deserve to,
Yeah, I think what you just said
opportunity.
is the key. If they make attempts to call you or text you to say, I am so sorry, I am currently on the 401.
Yeah.
It's wall-to-wall traffic. I'm trying to get there.
It speaks to what's going to happen if you hire them.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it, right?
It's commitment. It's commitment.
What's the saying? The best predictor of future behavior
is present behavior
or past behavior.
Yeah. So we used to actually, when we hired staff where I used to work, they would have 2 interviews, and then they would have to come to a week-long training session. And then,
Before they were hired?
Yep. And then if they were successful in training, then we gave them an offer of employment. But during that week-long training, one of the people that I was training on 2 separate days of the 5 days fell asleep during the training session. like full on sleeping as I'm up presenting in front of the room.
Wow.
So at the end of the 5 days, I met with every single one of them, and I said to him, "We're not going to be proceeding." He said, "Why?" And I said, "You really have to ask me?" He said, "Well, I don't understand." I said, "You fell asleep twice in two
Maybe
different
that
days."
speaks more about the presenter.
Maybe it
Yeah,
does. Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. And he actually said,
Maybe you're really
"Well,
boring, Wade."
I work nights. I'm tired." And I was like, "Well, sorry,
Yeah,
buddy."
you should make
Like,
accommodations for him, man.
yeah, right. Yeah, interesting. Like I just think, as you said before, that speaks to who they're going to be as an employee.
Right.
You can't stay awake at a training session when you know you're being evaluated on this job. But
It's
sorry.
pretty brutal.
Yeah.
You said you have so many stories. Have you got another one you want to share? Any family photo albums?
I've never had a family photo album. That one is a good one. I've never had that, but I have had someone come in for sales who, if you can all just like close your eyes for a second and picture the least person that would be a sales rep in your mind,
Okay.
right? Someone who you would know, like, he's in accounting, or like just,
Sure.
not
They're
personable.
not sales
Yeah.
quality.
No, they're not.
Quiet,
Not
reserved,
outgoing,
shy, whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
So all that stuff that
Okay.
all the traits that you can think of,
Sure.
that are the opposite of what a salesperson is,
Okay.
is what this person was. And they came in for a sales position, and it was me and someone else interviewing them, and we were kind of like you, like, are we getting punked right now? Because like it was like, you do not scream salesperson, and even just asking questions of like, okay, so has there been a time where you've done this or that, or would you explain how you would handle this? And I was like, oh no, I wouldn't be able to do that. And it was like, just every answer was like, then why exactly are you here?
Yeah. Why did you apply for this sales
And I
job?
actually had to tell the person that, I've never really said to someone in the interview, we're not hiring you. I've always said, you know what, we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
We'll reach
Right.
back out.
To be nice.
We've got
Yes.
some more people. But this time I just thought, this is so out there and so egregious that he's coming in here thinking that he has what it takes. I just thought, I have to set him straight. So I just said, like, listen, I'm not trying to be mean, but I think you need to understand, like, I don't think sales is for you. And I was being as honest as I could. And I said, like, I think you need to stay like in rating and doing rates and, doing spreadsheets, because that was him. And he was that's what he was currently doing, but he just thought, I think I want to make a foray into the sales world. And yeah, it was, I strongly tried to encourage him that maybe he shouldn't do that.
What did he say? Did he accept that?
He appreciated the feedback.
The honesty?
Yeah.
I
think
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, I think that I have probably been direct with somebody during an interview, but not very often.
Yeah.
That was the only
Right.
time I've ever done that.
Usually I would just say, well, we'll chat about it. Get back to you.
Yeah.
So, okay. So here's another question. Let's say it's either just you interviewing or it's you and another person interviewing. And you finish the third question. You've got a list of 15 questions to go through. You get to number 3 and you already know this is not the person I'm hiring.
Yeah.
Do you continue with the other 15? The other 12 questions?
Well, you know what I've done, and I hate to say this.
Sadly, I have done that, but yeah.
I've probably done the same. That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
I've had, typically I like to do interview with, sometimes I do it by myself, but most times I bring someone else in to get another set of
Perspective.
eyes and
absolutely.
a different read. And I have, after 3 questions in, when I know this is just a complete waste of time,
Yep.
I've said like, oh my God, I apologize. Why don't you carry on this interview? I have got to, I totally spaced, and I've made an exit.
So I have done similar. Yeah.
But you throw in your other colleague under the bus to finish it?
I most certainly
that's
have.
so mean.
And they've done it to me too. So it's, and they know who they are. Yeah.
So
But
that
it's kind of funny. But yeah, I
That
try to
actually
get out of it.
That did happen to me when Cody was working with me. And so I said, I'll sit in on the interview. That's fine. And he said, well, let's have a little code. Like if I don't think it's going anywhere, like I'll get up and go to the bathroom or something like that. And so I think we were a couple questions in. He's like, I got to go to the bathroom. And I thought, already? Like we haven't started. And then he just went back in the shop and he just made himself busy. He was like, oh, so I went through the motions, but I mean, literally I skipped half the questions and carried on. You don't want to be an ass, but at the same time, it's like,
It's just a waste of your time.
it's a huge waste of your time.
Yeah.
So I used to do a lot of interviews with another supervisor who I really liked interviewing with him. But we both were on the same page, and it was probably rude looking back on it. But if we got through 3 questions, either one of us would say to the other one, "Well, that's all I have. Spence, do you have anything else?
I've done that.
Anything else to ask?"
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, "No, I think I'm good." I'm like, "Okay, do you have any questions for us?" "Well, thanks for coming in."
Yes.
Yeah. And that was the end of the interview. And we both knew if one of us said that,
Yeah, it was
that
done.
We're done.
Yeah.
But it always felt awkward. Like you're 3 questions in, and they got
Yeah.
you've got
Well,
you
they
booked an
know.
hour interview, and
Yeah.
you've been there for 15 minutes. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
that they know you're not having it, but
Yeah.
you're not saying it.
Yeah.
Actually, this is kind of off topic, but I'm gonna hopefully have you guys look at a couple YouTube videos when we're off this podcast.
Okay.
Because there's a guy on there that does exactly that. He does like interviews, like Zoom and all that kind of stuff, but just acts completely inappropriate in interviews just to get the reaction of the person interviewing. It's actually hilarious. So
You may have shown me some of those before.
yeah, I may have. It's classic.
I love the ones that have, like you said, zero experience. They're saying, "Just give me a chance." I remember there was a time there was this kid. He's like, "No, I'm looking for a bathroom renovator at the time," and he's like, "No, I've been doing full bathroom rentals with my dad. We've been working together for X amount of time." And I thought, well, I wonder, what he knows about a renovation. So I said, "Well, here's just a random question for you. You and your dad have been doing lots of bathroom rentals, like full guts." He says, "Yep." I said, "What sort of ballpark? Where are you guys sitting, like from a price perspective? Like, what's a full bathroom job worth in your mind?" Now, I knew for me that answer started around 20,000. It goes up, but I mean, 20,000 is not a super fancy bathroom, but gutted out, basic tub and tile, whatever. And he said, "I would say most of them are around 3,000." And I thought, yeah, you're not renovating bathrooms. There's no way you were doing that. And that's really how I got rid of them. I said, I got to be honest, if you're doing bathrooms for 3,000, I'm concerned that the quality of work that you might be doing
It's not up to the same standard.
it's not going to be at our standard.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen, but
I'd say the funniest interview I've ever done, and I hope this person is not watching this podcast. I highly
Probably
doubt,
not.
highly doubt that she is. But I was with another colleague, and you actually know her, Jackie, my other colleague.
okay.
And we knew the staff we were interviewing. She was a part-time staff applying for a full-time job in the same agency, and we knew her quite well. And so I think at one point I said, "I'd like you just to kind of define for us, or maybe explain to us, kind of your top 3 qualities as they relate to this position."
Yeah.
She said, "Okay." And I said, "But we would like you to sing them." And I said it completely panned, like stone face.
Wow.
She went, "Huh." And I said, "No, like seriously." And I looked at Jackie, and she's like, "Yeah, we'd like you to sing them." and she starts going, "Compassion,
Oh my God.
respect."
Come on.
She did, and she
Wow.
got through the first 2, and then I went, "I'm going to stop you right there. We're just totally kidding." And we all had a really
my
good
God.
laugh. We hired her. We knew
that's
we were going to
hilarious.
hire her. But-
Good for her.
Oh my God, it was so funny. Yeah, so funny. She was a good sport about it.
Yeah. Wow.
You got to have fun sometimes.
Yeah. What's your go-to interview question when you just start? I know there was a long time ago, you said, I often start an interview like this, and I know what the line is. I could say it if you want.
Sure.
I think you used to say, "So pretend I'm like an old buddy you haven't seen for a
Yeah.
while,
You're-
and just tell me, like, what have you been up to?"
Yes, I used to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones, I think, is what have you been most proud of in the last 5 years? Because it can be a school achievement, it can be a work achievement, it can be a personal achievement, but it just tells me might tell me about their goal setting or things that they've worked hard to gain and they actually got there because they worked hard. So I like that question.
What about you, Spence? Do you have a go-to that you just want to know what they're going to say?
I've got a lot of things that I ask because I try to mix
try
it
to
up
trip
and try
them
to
up,
keep
probably.
I try to keep people on their toes, and
Yep.
I don't want to ask like the standard question like, give me your top 3 skills and your
Yeah.
strengths, and
Yeah.
where's a time in your career that you feel like you may have failed. Like I don't ask
I
those.
hate those ones.
Have you ever had conflict with a colleague and how did you
Yeah,
resolve it?
yes.
Because the answers are all bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So I always will say something, and I say this one a lot actually, where I'll say to someone, if you could craft your dream job,
Yeah,
here.
I've done that.
What would it like? What does that look like for you?
Yeah.
Just so I can, it does two things. It lets me try to get a glimpse into, either salary
long range plans,
expectations.
yeah.
It lets me know if they're, what kind of vision they have. Is it very short term or are they thinking long? So I think it does that question I asked quite a bit.
Now, do you guys ever ask if you're looking at the resume and there's gaps in employment?
Oh yeah, I always say,
or
absolutely.
there's
what
there's-
happened here? Yeah,
Or they were like here for 4 months, here
Yeah.
for 6 months, here for
Absolutely,
3 months,
I
here
do.
for 2 months.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I would say I noticed that you went from one job to the other here a couple of times. What was happening there was there just you didn't like that job, or maybe sometimes there's personality things with your boss. And I just see what they say.
Yeah, and then when I know that they're BSing me, then I typically my next question is, if I were to call them for a reference, is that something I'm able to do?
I do too.
Oh well, to be honest, we didn't leave on the best of terms.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
I've also said to people when they say that to me, about the best term, I'm like, that's okay, because sometimes there just is a personality conflict, and you're a good employee.
Yeah, sometimes.
Most of the time,
Sometimes.
it's not so much the case, but I do the same. I'd say no, that's no big deal. Sometimes people just don't get along.
I do ask how their current supervisor or even a past one would describe them if I ask them the question, and then when they're done that, I say, so how would a good friend describe you? Because I want to see if there's a difference, right? Sometimes they say, they might say something with the supervisor, then their friend, they're like, they would call me very loyal and that I listen to all their issues and I'm there for them and I'm very funny and I like that stuff because I want to know their personality, not their BS answers that they've just kind of like, this is what he wants to hear from me, but just tell me who you are as a person. You can train skills. I want to know your personality.
So have you ever asked, Wade, somebody like what their previous employees would say about them? Like if they were in a supervisory role, you were asking them about?
Yeah, I would ask them how their employees would describe them for sure. Because I think it shows a bit of self-awareness, right? Anybody can say, I'm really great at these things, but it's really, that doesn't matter. What matters is how others perceive you, right? It's kind of like if you're working with clients or working with vulnerable people, you can say, oh, I'm the best person at making connections with my clients. Okay, well, if I ask them, would they say the same, right? It's a different thing.
I think also too, I've asked the question, what do you consider, what does success mean to you? Right. And for me, that answer would be success as a man is what people say about me when I left the room. It's not about how much money I had or the role that I was in. It was about the impression that I leave as I'm walking out of the room. So I think that's what it kind of means to me. And it's interesting to see what some people will say to that.
So you care what people say about you?
You know what?
Because I don't. I don't care. People can say whatever they want.
Listen, when you're in a management role, as you've been for a long time, you have to get thick skin about that. Like, if you don't like it, sorry, because they're just going to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And so I refuse to be taken advantage of. I was many times in the beginning as a boss because I didn't understand that I couldn't be their friend. I had to be their boss.
One question, I think we can wrap it up, but I think the one question I always sort of lead with, usually near the end of my interviews, is I'll say to someone, so what would you consider failure? Like if you, you were here for a year and you only had X number of sales or you only had X number of clients or whatever, like what would you, confidently look in the mirror and say, this probably isn't for me because I'm failing. And I like to pose that question rather than where do they see success at and what, how many, sales are they going to have or how many new clients do you think they're going to have by this time? I always try to back it up, do the opposite. And then I tell them to be ultra conservative, like just, don't try to, tell me what I want to hear. What would you consider? Like, I'm going to probably tell you I quit because I'm failing and I would consider this like abysmal.
Interesting.
And then when they say that then becomes my baseline. Where I say, okay, well then we both agree then if you were to do this, you would be okay then if we let you go. Because we both agree that that's kind of failure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe that's not a right question to ask people.
No,
but
I'm with you. I do think we should.
I think people have to have expectation, right? I want to know what their expectation is, what their viewpoint of failure is. Because their failure might, to me, be a success in year one. I might say, you know what, I would take that all day long. If
Yeah.
your failure is my success, I think we've got a win-win.
Yeah. I think it's highly important to be very, I hate the padded answers or I'm going to tell them and I've often said, so that's a nice answer. You told me what I wanted to hear. So tell me how you really feel. Because I don't want to hear the padded answer. Like, just tell me honestly.
Yeah.
You know, if you've had a conflict with someone and you couldn't resolve it because they were just too difficult of a person, then tell me that. Don't say, oh, well, you know, we tried to talk about it
Yeah.
and I expressed my point of view and then I listened to their point of view. It's like, okay, I don't want to hear that. Just tell me what really happened.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the honesty, even if they were saying they were having a conflict with somebody, because it's real.
It is
and
real.
it happens.
Yeah.
You can have two very good people, but they just don't get along.
Yeah.
You know. So, anyways, I thought I would have had way more stories. There's probably been way more, but those two sort of stood out to me.
Oh, it's hard to remember them all. But yeah, they're interesting stories for sure. Unique experiences, interviews.
Lots of life experiences.
I love interviews. I think it's so fun.
Do you?
It is
I
fun.
do. Yeah. I love getting to meet people and hearing their stories. And
Yep.
Anyways, didn't know where that was going to go, but
No, great topic. It was good.
it was interesting. I wish I could remember more stories.
Oh, they'll come to you when we're done the podcast.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you've got any stories, hey, tell us about them next time on ProBROknow.